David, thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate it. And wanted to talk about your son, Daniel, that went missing and is still missing. And I was going to ask you maybe to start off with, you can give a little bit of information about Daniel.
Well, Daniel, my son, he's the youngest of his of four. He have twin sisters and older brother. He's from so we all from South Carolina,
Okay.
and born and raised. He was there, like I said, with his siblings. Of course, many people noticed or may have not noticed. Daniel been born without a right hand. Of course, that was a mental challenge for us as parents at first, and also to try to help him get along in school. Daniel showed us as parents that, hey, look, he just loved to be who he is as a person. It has never been a challenge for Daniel. For instance, he would refuse prosthetics as he was growing up with that one hand, with his only his left hand, because he just wanted to be himself. He also
Right.
challenges himself on anything he do. He challenges siblings, whether it's video games to academics. Saying he taught himself how to play the French horn, taught himself how to play the trombone, trumpet, and as well as he played a little dabble into sports. But when he got to college, of course, he went to College of Charleston in Charleston, South Carolina, where he decided to major in geology in his freshman year. And you know what? He excelled that. He graduated with honors. Like I say, he's a very family oriented person, but very friendly. He has tons of friends all across. But Daniel's a wonderful person. Like I said, very brilliant scientist who, saying have dreams and aspirations.
And so this job that he was working at is in Arizona Buckeye. And what was the name of the place?
Well, he worked for a company in Phoenix. It's out of
Oh,
Phoenix,
okay.
Arizona. It's actually called Matrix Southwest Groundwater. They also call themselves Matrix New World. So sometimes people look it up. You can see both. This the same place, Matrix New World, Matrix Southwest Groundwater. But they hired him as a field geologist, also called a
Oh,
hydrogeologist.
okay. And what kind of stuff, what kind of work did he do? Because
Well, they hire geologists for what they do. They're scientists to work with things dealing with, I guess, rocks, settlements, and things like that. But his job as a hydrogeologist is to go out to various well sites all across Arizona. As everybody knows, Arizona just is actually it's because it's a desert state. They have to have groundwater for all of their communities, and his job is to determine if those groundwaters can actually support that community. They got to produce 100 years of water by law, and his job is to determine that.
okay. So if we could start with that day that he went missing, he showed up to work. That was June 23rd. Is that right?
Yeah, June 23rd of 2021.
2021. And he was working that day. He was with a coworker named Ken Elliot, and it was their first time working together, I guess.
Yeah, and that's my impression. That's what was given to me. I heard that from Ken himself. I heard it from his company that he worked for. I'm still looking into this actual facts, but yes, that's what we have on the ground now. Information.
Okay. And so he was with him around 9:15 or 9:30 that morning. It was located near, I guess, this crossroads, Sun Valley Parkway and Cactus Road.
Yeah, West Cactus Road. That's West Cactus Road is not really a actual road. It's a more of a
Oh,
dirt road that goes out into the Sonoran Desert, somewhat. But yeah, they do have that road sign there, West Cactus Road. But yeah, Sun Valley Parkway.
and just to give some context about that morning, Daniel was last seen by this coworker, his fellow coworker, and this guy's a pump technician, I believe. They were working at this remote drill site. That's what this location is. And this was Daniel's second job of the day. I kind of want to talk about that morning a little bit, and maybe you can correct me. Ken and Daniel had some type of conversation that morning, and Ken said that Daniel was just looking off into the desert. He had a very distant look in his eyes. When he turned around again, I would look at him into his eyes, and the first thing I thought was maybe it was drugs or something, but his pupils were not dilated. From that standpoint, everything appeared to be normal. Then I thought this was a medical condition or something. I wasn't too sure. I kept watching him, but he just kept turning around and looking off into the desert. He then turned around and walked back over to his Jeep, and I assumed he was going to get something out of his vehicle. And he opened the door, got in, and sat down and put his seatbelt on. And he looked at me and just waved, and he left.
BPD also released a partial police report on Thursday that documents all the leads and evidence they've followed up on, like call logs with Daniel's coworker who says he wasn't making sense the day he disappeared.
Now, according to the police report, David also said, that's Daniel's father, they had been receiving information from a coworker of Daniel's. He advised that Daniel had been to the job site in Buckeye, but that he had left in the morning and had not come back. I then spoke with Kevin, who is a supervisor with the company. He advised that Ken with the company Weber was the person that had met with Daniel. I spoke with Ken on the phone. He advised that Daniel had arrived at the site around 9 a.m. and that it was raining. Ken said that Daniel was saying things that did not make sense, like asking if Ken wanted to go rest, and then asked if he wanted to go to Phoenix to rest. Ken advised that Daniel was not making sense with the things he was saying and that he was talking about things that did not make sense. Ken said that Daniel was there for approximately 15 minutes and then suddenly left. Ken said he was concerned because of Daniel's behavior and spoke with Steve, who was a project manager, and let Steve know what had happened. Ken said that he continued working and that he was receiving updates throughout the day from Steve. According to Insider, around 3 p.m., Kenneth was made aware that Robinson had not been located and was not responding to texts and calls from work and family. At that point, Ken started to look for Robinson in the desert. Ken followed tire tracks. He said were Robinson's near the work site where Robinson was last seen, heading west. And the other part of that, too, is that he said he later walked out, I guess, to this junction, T junction, where he sees Daniel's tire tracks, and that instead of going towards Phoenix, he went the other way, and that it was raining, I guess.
Well, of course, yeah, Ken told me the same story. It came out on June 26th, and first person I interviewed was Ken. He told me the same exact story that he told law enforcement, except some of those details what you read was something that came afterwards. But there's more details. So I had to go back about what he told me personally, and Ken told me a lot more than that.
Oh, yeah, okay.
A lot of people need to understand that T junction that he is speaking of, when you come down to, he had to drive down there from the well site. That's at least 2 miles south to get to this T junction from that well site.
Oh,
And once you get to that well site, to that T junction, you can go left or right, you know what I'm saying? And want to go left, you go back to Sun Valley Parkway. And then if you go right, you go to a power station before you go out west to the middle of nowhere. So of course, the stories that he saw the tracks, like you said, at that T junction, go right. He's saying going out west, so you have to go south, way south first before you can go west. But you come to a gate. I mean, you come to the gate almost a few hundred feet. You come to a gate, a wooden gate. So my problem is to that story is that Daniel would have not turned right by accident and make it to a gate, because he had to literally get out his vehicle, open this wooden gate that he know he didn't even come through to even get to the well site, and then go through that gate to get to wherever that Ken claimed that tracks went.
okay. And that direction, was that towards where his vehicle was found?
That's correct. Yes,
Okay.
it's about almost about 3 miles, close to 3 miles away from that well site.
Okay. I wanted to ask you, too, because some people were asking when I had mentioned the story. So, obviously, I guess Ken had talked with police, too, like they've, I guess, checked them out and all that.
Well, they did initial, of course. That's where I got the story from before, as I was traveling to Arizona. Got it from law enforcement. Like I said, I spoke to him. So yeah, they talked to him the day of that Daniel went missing.
Okay. And so then, let's just have some basic timeline. So, and you reported him missing that evening, I think, right? The same day.
Right.
And then on the 24th, the next day, it says police dispatched to check the apartment, but they didn't go inside, and people were kind of wondering about that too.
Well, it wasn't the next day that law
Oh,
enforcement went to his apartment. Well, I take that back. I initially called Tippett Police Department to report Daniel missing, and I asked for a welfare check. Then they bounced it off to Buckeye Police Department, which I ended up calling them to try to put a missing person report in. and at the same time asked for this welfare check. Of course, they told me they had to call Tempe because it's in Tempe. So that's what ended up happening. Is Tempe just did what they call as a drive-by,
Mm,
where they drove around his apartment. They got out the vehicle. They saw that a same window we seen his patio window. Patio had a blinds there that was kind of cracked a little bit, so you can see the lighter that's on inside the house. You might can even peek in the living room just a little bit if you was to go up close to it. But that's about it. That was the call as a welfare check at that moment at that time.
okay, thank you. And then it says here, July 7th, I guess almost 2 weeks later, they go back, and that this time they actually enter the home.
Right. What happened is also my family and I was trying to get access to Daniel's apartment at the time. Of course, we went to the Buckeye Police Department to see if they can assist that. They said they couldn't without a warrant. So what we did
Mm,
is we contacted his landlords. I asked again. They told me no for the family. But then the officer got on the phone. He said, "Hey, look, he's from the Buckeye Police Department, of course." And to make a long story with that, they decided the landlords, because of legal reason, they didn't want anybody in. But they decided to allow law enforcement in with one of the managements. The property manager had to be present to watch law enforcement, make sure they didn't touch anything. They can take
mm,
pictures. They can walk in and take pictures, and that's about it. And that's what happened on that day.
wow. So then we go to July 19th, and this is when the rancher finds the vehicle, Daniel's vehicle. And there was a couple of things about that because, well, one, he said that, like, the vehicle was found July 19th. He said that he had been out there previously, I thought, and he didn't see the vehicle.
Right on the 17th, he's out there. The rancher, he's fourth generation cattle rancher. He owns the land out there. He's out. He have free roaming cattle. I don't know if people know he had longhorn cattle, and they tend to go down that same ravine. According to him, it's a corral that's a little about 300 feet or a little more, a couple thousand feet, I'm sorry, about 2,000 feet south of that ravine, where there's a open area where corral is sitting, and the cattle comes down through that ravine where the vehicle is found to get to to the corral to feed. So he was coming through there. He said on the 17th to see if those cattle came through yet. They haven't. He decided to come back again 2 days later to track the cattle, see if they came through, and that's when he found the vehicle.
So, coming along this ridge, Daniel's vehicle would have entered this way at about a 45-degree angle down this ravine. It's still on its wheels, and you can see some of the tire patterns still in there as it's digging into the ground. So as he's coming this way, here we go. And you can see the creosote bushes are still pushed over where his vehicle has passed through.
And so the condition, so the vehicle was 4 miles away from the work site, and the condition they had talked about that there was like significant damage on the side. I'll put a picture for everybody to see. What I was confused about too, they said police said the seatbelt had been worn at the time. I don't know what they meant by that. Like,
Well, what they told me, the initial, assessment of it the day after Daniel's vehicle was found, I did go to the police department, and Detective Biffin, he told me that he believed the seatbelt was on. The reasons why, because he says a seatbelt locks when you get in an accident, it locks whatever
mm,
position it in. So it was locking that position when they found the vehicle.
interesting. Okay. And they said that the airbags were deployed. Daniel's size 11 and a half Red Wing work boots were stuck underneath the truck.
Well, one was kind of stuck on the front end of the vehicle on the passenger side. That was lying the way the vehicle was lying down on the passenger side. It's
Mm,
kind of stuck tucked under there a little, and the other one was on the opposite side, where the wheel side, where about a foot away from the vehicle.
okay. And so they said that what was found in the vehicle, they said it's clothes, phone, wallet, keys, bottled water. They said t-shirt, jeans turned inside out, shorts, orange work vest, boots, two mismatched black socks were all located. One was Nike, one was Adidas.
Well, that's going to be some questionable stuff. One thing is the clothing was found. All the clothing, the jeans, the shirt, all that stuff was found 3 feet away from the vehicle, outside the vehicle in a pile.
This is what was recovered. Yeah. So there's his boots. T-shirt was dark. There's the T-shirt. His jeans were found inside out, just like this. His orange work vest was laid out there to the side. So anything above would have seen the orange vest, reflective vest off to the side. Okay, the first thing I noticed was the picture that Mr. Robinson showed me where the vehicle was laying on its other side. And I saw this damage here as you look down with this mirror folded in. That's what I was saying. It didn't look right. It didn't match being tipped on the other side. And I saw this windshield from these pictures. And this is from some blunt force coming inwards to it, like someone threw a rock or something to that. I don't know. But something hit this here, which broke this and spiderwebbed this out. This window glass is the only glass that's completely broken out on this entire vehicle. And this is the opposite side that it tipped on. There's panels in the roof. They're solid panels. There's no glass in the roof of this thing. So it's just, there's release hatches inside, and you pull the release and then you pop the panels out, and that makes it almost like, I guess, a convertible. So this damage didn't look right to me. As we move around, this here, if you look low, this is probably the force that blew the airbags. Something, and it's only going to be about this tall. So it could be a boulder in the desert, but somebody ran into that with no braking at 30 miles an hour. The vehicle probably jumped over it, went crazy, but all the airbags blew, and they kept going.
His wallet was inside those the clothing, and the reason why I say is questioning that because hindsight, after the vehicle showed up, of course, my investigator found the other sock that matches the sock at the scene near the well site. So saying that wasn't part of the evidence bag that Buckeye collected. So that's the reason why I say that with the sock. But everything else was found in the vehicle. His cell phone was found in the vehicle. His work computer, where he get his assignments, that was little laptop was found in the vehicle. Like you said, 2 cases of water, untouched, was in the vehicle. Things like that. So.
And it said too that you guys try to like trace. As far as like the phone look GPS, you didn't get much from that, I guess.
No, they didn't get anything initially. Families, we don't know much about cell phone pings. We just hear things like that on TV or
Right.
and so of course first thing we did is ask for that. Buckeye Police Department told they couldn't do it, couldn't look for cell phone pings because they had to have a warrant, and if they was to ask for one, the judge wouldn't grant them one because it's not a criminal case. So we then asked for I asked for footage, just like hey, look, let's look at camera footages from him leaving his home that morning. Whatever stops he may have made at time. We didn't know anything about the gas station at the moment, and let's get there. They said they couldn't do that. They couldn't find anything, but they just found him riding to California to see his sister a month prior in California. Somehow they was able to pull up California cameras, but they couldn't get anything. And then also, lastly, we asked as well as information from Daniel's Jeep, which he had a Uconnect. It's almost like an OnStar system. So we asked to try to get evidence, get information from that to say where his vehicle was located and things like that, where it went. They told us first they couldn't do it, and then secondly they said, yeah, we can. They called Uconnect. He got back with me and told me that Uconnect says they gave them what they had and said that it came out with all 0 grids. And they told me initially, they kind of changed the story, the law enforcement, but they initially told me that only happens when somebody disconnect the battery, or sabotage or damage the device itself. That's what was initially told to me and my family, and that's the reason why I came up with 0 grid. So we couldn't get nothing back from it, but now they're saying it's because he didn't have a subscription, so we just don't know.
What does
Right.
zero grids mean? Like no information?
No information at all.
Uh,
Zero grids, usually have a coordinates, coordinates.
oh,
They didn't
gotcha.
have any coordinates into the system where the vehicle went on that day, and et cetera.
Wow. And then can you tell me about this? Oh, it's about with the vehicles though. So no blood was found. Did they fingerprint it?
And July the 19th, and when the vehicle was found, of course, Detective Biffin, he's in charge. He felt there was no reason to do forensics, is what he told me. Hindsight, so they didn't do any forensics on the scene. I did have a meeting with them a few days after the vehicle showed up because I was upset about all of that. And in that meeting, I found that, like, of course, yeah, they told me to admit they didn't do any forensics, but they said they didn't see any blood, like with their eyes, And I asked them,
Oh,
again from TV,
oh,
I heard they have stuff you could spray or light or
right,
something to
right.
see if anything been wiped up. They haven't done that to this date, so
Oh,
that type deal. But they said they didn't see
that's
with
important to
their
know
eyes.
because all
Right?
this time I thought maybe they had done like a thorough.
No,
I
no,
didn't know they
not at
just
all.
visually looked and okay, no blood.
Right? It's
Because maybe they could
visually
have found
assessment.
traces or something. Wow.
Right. Right. So that's the problem I have as well, to date. Right.
And then, so it said on July 31st, a human skull was found, but it wasn't related to Daniel. But I also wanted to ask you because I thought I saw on your webpage that you've encountered multiple, which is pleasehelpfinddaniel.com. I want to post all the links too so people can check you out, the website for your son, where to get information, and the YouTube page and everything. And also, I saw the
Right.
GoFundMe. I got to verify which one because I think there's two of them, right?
It's two now. Right. Correct.
Okay. Okay. So I'll put them both.
One I had when I was doing the initial searches, the 49 weeks of searches, I had to end up doing a reset to try to get some things going now.
Okay. So have you found other human remains out there as well besides this skull?
Yeah, that's the skull was one of the initial findings that we had out in my searches out there in the desert. Of course, as you read that in the report, I guess we turned those over to the Buckeye Maricopa County Sheriff's Office. But since then, the way the website pleasehelpfinddaniel.com, people go on it right now. You can see where if you find anything, you just literally use that site. I have it set up where you take the pictures through the site, and you put the coordinates in, and in real time, Buckeye get a cup to date. They still would get a copy of that information. I would get a copy as well for my records, and so we was able to send those things up to the Buckeye Police Department during the searches. And each time, there's a lot of animal remains. You can imagine it being in the
I'm
desert.
sure.
There's a lot
Yeah.
of animals out there,
Yeah.
so animals killing animals. So we do find mostly animal remains, but the human remains that was found is verified by the Buckeye Police Department, verified by the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office, and so that's how we got the numbers. We got up to about seven, because the way we counted was like if you find. We know everybody got two femurs, for instance. If you find
Mhm.
three, that's another person. So we kind of add those up, and then got to a point where it was up to like seven. Of course, once Daniel's case became a national thing, the law enforcement kind of backtracked that up and say it's only
Mhm.
about one or two or something like that. But
Okay.
that keep the crime statistics down. But the
Right.
fact of the matter is, those things been verified by law enforcement themselves at the time.
And this, where the vehicle was found, to, I mean, they had searched this area before, right? Like this is like, and what were they using for searches? They're like drones, ATV. What kind of
Who is this? I'm sorry.
for the searches that they've done? What kind of like what did they use? Like did they use ATVs, drones, helicopters?
Well, I want to make this clear though. There was no other searches but what I have been done. I've done the 49 weeks. I haven't had help with law enforcement. I created the search. I had to go out and find people. Everything is grassroots. I built this, and I'm not saying it in a prideful way. I'm saying it in a way that I don't want people to get confused and think law enforcement had a hand, or some nonprofit group had a hands. I've reached out a lot of nonprofits. Only one nonprofit ever showed up to any efforts to help me in my search, and that was the Black and Missing Foundation. Outside of that, no Texas Aqua Search and all them, nobody showed up for any kind of help. So everything came from my monies. That's why I had to do a reset on the GoFundMe. All the money that was collected during that whole 2 years was going towards equipment. There was razors that I had to provide for my investigators and his team. Also for myself to keep volunteers safe. We had to keep a command center to keep things for in case somebody get a heat stroke, for instance, to keep them safe. So all that stuff. I had to charter a helicopter to do a search. I had to get cadaver dogs. All that stuff came out of everybody's. When I say everybody's, everybody, my pocket as well as those who've been donating. So that's where all that comes from. So I just wanted people to be clear, understand that law enforcement did not have a dime into or any kind of help into those searches of 49 weeks.
Thank you for clearing that up. Yeah, that's important because sometimes when I read the articles, I'm thinking just like the police, like making this thing go on, the search effort. So police initially did some type of search, I guess, and then that was it.
And the thing is with that, and I'm not gonna make sure everybody clear as well. I'm not police bashing. I'm just going with
Of
the
course,
fact.
yeah.
My family and I asked law enforcement to go search for Daniel on June the 23rd when he went missing. Once I found out he was actually missing in the desert, being an Army veteran, I know how helicopters are. I fly them all the time. They claimed
Oh
that
wow.
they couldn't fly a helicopter at night. So of course they said they would do it the next morning. They refused. They actually turned it down. Say Dan's a grown man. Dan didn't tell him this though, but they say he's a grown man. He can disappear if he want to. I was very upset to hear that because Dan didn't tell him that. So how they can just make an assumption? So they decided not to go search for Daniel. I had an auntie from Philly called Buckeye Police Department, and whatever she said to them, they agreed to put a Firebird helicopter called as Phoenix. They don't have their own helicopter, so they had to go to Phoenix Fire Police Department Fire and Rescue and ask for a helicopter. It's called Phoenix Firebird. That's what they say, but to record to date, I want to say hindsight. I put in for a FOIA request that's 2 years strong. For 2 years now, they have not found a record of that actually happened. I'm thinking in my mind, it's something that law enforcement just told us to make us feel better, but they didn't actually go search. But they put in their report as well. So it was only almost 3 days after Daniel went missing. They claimed that they did this initial search with the Phoenix Firebird helicopter.
Wow. That's incredible. I wanted to talk too about. Do you still have the same private investigator? You guys are
No,
still
I do
working
not.
there?
I don't have any
Okay.
private investigator at this moment. Mr.
Okay.
McGrath, he quit. That was in November of 2021.
Oh, okay. Oh, it's been a long time. Okay.
Right.
So he investigated the vehicle with the data, and some of the things here that it says evidence from the vehicle showed that it crashed, the airbags deployed, then drove another 11 miles and was involved in another crash. The first collision was 4 hours after Daniel went missing, which I just think is so
Yeah.
bizarre. While there was some paint transfer from the vehicle, I think it was red. They said,
Red transfer paint on the passenger side. Right.
and it says after the first accident, it's unknown whether the vehicle was taken or where the vehicle was taken. McGrath said after the airbags were deployed, the ignition was turned on at least 46 more times during the extra 11 miles driven.
Right. That's correct.
And police too had their kind of own explanation. I don't know if you saw that as well,
Yes, I have.
because I was kind of curious to get your thoughts too, because they said here Daniel Steep was involved in a rollover crash. It was the only crash recorded. So, but we have this other thing where it says there was two crashes. That's one of the parts that are conflicting discrepancies. It says speed increased right before impact, which could indicate an attempt to drive up the other side of the ravine. So whoever it was, they're thinking try to cross. That's their other thought. And then it said more than 40 ignition cycles were recorded after the crash. That could be due to the driver attempts to restart the vehicle or electrical systems. It's unclear how many cycles occurred during the tow recovery and when investigators downloaded data. And they said that an 11-mile discrepancy could be between the crash data report and the displayed odometer reading is not considered unusual. So they're saying sometimes there's discrepancies with the odometer.
Well, that's a whole package. I have a lot to
I'm
say
sorry.
about that.
Yeah.
One thing I can say, and I'm going to put this out too. My investigator, he's a very competent investigator. He's an accident reconstructionist. Of course, during the time when he came aboard is only because of what the Buckeye Police Department gave me. They believe that the vehicle turned and flipped like you said. They said that The good part, Mr. Robinson, is that he had a seatbelt on, and he didn't suffer any injuries. We didn't see with our eyes in the blood in the vehicle.
Mm.
What we believe has happened on the same breath. They say what we believe is happened is that he had severe brain injury, and that's what made him kick that his way out of the sunroof. And I always say with his superhuman strength, to be funny, because it's a panel. Everybody knows them Jeep Renegades don't have glass; they have panels.
Mm.
Kicked his way out of the sunroof, and because he had a brain injury, he shredded all his clothes off. That because he's hot. That's why it was in the pile. He walked off somewhere, succumbed to his injuries, hit on the tree, succumbed to his injury, and an animal ate him. That's what they told me at
Wow.
first. Then they turned around and say no. Maybe he just wanted to be away from his family. He did all this, mess around all this, because he wanted to get away and join a monastery, become a monk. That would cause me to initially ask for a private investigator. So I looked for one. Ms. Graff came along. He said, like I said, accident reconstructionist. They at the time, yeah, we still have the public record. They, nothing never go away on their on Facebook. They say they had no more leads to follow. They had nothing more on Dane's case. They were done with Dane's case. They also told my investigator it wasn't investigating. So they was able to give my investigator the black box data that they drew from that vehicle. And I want to say it do not take 46 initial cycles to turn on the key to get that data off that black box. You turn it on one time, get the data off.
Exactly. Right.
Even in a tow, you don't have to have a vehicle running to or crank 46 times. It's first of all, it's push start, crank 46 times to tow a vehicle. So that's ludicrous. The other part is, like I said, my investigator, once he read the data, he was shocked. He said, "Hey, they haven't read the data. That's where a lot of information came from." He went further. He took the infotainment system out of the vehicle, had
Mm.
to send to California for analysis. That's where the report came back. I think it was like almost 800-page report. That's where he got the time. That didn't happen around near 1 o'clock that day, almost 4 hours, like you said. Afterwards, found the 11 additional miles on from the odometer and the black box data. And I want to put a footnote into that as well. The Buckeye Police Department saying that with their accident constructionist saying that he went to a dealership and asked someone to say, "Hey, is this unusual?" And they said no. Now, mind you, if it's a serious investigation like my investigator, they would went to the manufacturers. And the reason why they didn't, because they know what the manufacturers say, there's no recall on this. Our stuff matches. You can imagine that's an insult to the engineers of that vehicle, and they know that. So they probably went to some janitor at the dealership and asked, "Hey, man," and probably asked like five of them. One of them say, "Oh, yep, that's exactly." Now, to back things up, I want to everybody to understand as well. The Buckeye Police Department did not the investigator who came up with this stuff have not ever seen Daniel's vehicle, never touched it, never smelled it, never tasted nothing, didn't even see it, but made a full report that you guys are reading about something he never saw in his life. He haven't examined the damage on the vehicle. He haven't looked at the rooftop. If you look at the rooftop, the way that my son's vehicle stored, insurance companies keep this thing stored there, and I can't give you the location, but they store it. And this guy there told me he see this every day. He said, "There's not a rollover crash because the roof would have been caved. The weight of the vehicle would
Mm.
have crushed the roof. There's no roof damage at the top, no scratches, no nothing. So it's impossible to have to do a rollover, first of all." So it's things like that when you look at that vehicle. The red transfer paint, they did not find that. My investigator found the red transfer paint as well
Mm.
on that side of the vehicle. So there's a lot of things that have to be looked at to that assessment of that vehicle when when it turns. So that's why I say it's a big package. When you say that, there's a lot more I can say right now to go along with that. But I can say again, their investigator have never seen Dane's vehicle, never never asked for it. They even try to do a proper assessment. He haven't never seen. I don't know. I'm surprised. I wouldn't be surprised he had never went out to the crash site because what my
Mm.
investigator found as well through the I know I've been long-winded, but
No, no, no.
through
Take your
the
time. This is good. This is really
yes,
informative. Yeah.
yes, but through the measurements that he did. Think about this all physical from my investigator standpoint. Me and my investigator, I was joining in with him. We did extensive. I told you, like again, I rented out a lot of desert equipment for my investigator and his team, and also for myself. We use desert lighter vehicles made for that desert terrain. You measure all the bouncing up down, all the cactus and trees, shrubberies, and all that. That big heavy vehicle would not be able to get up to that speed. He did the measurements going up here. The vehicle had to go up here and make over just a small crest just to go down in this, go flat for probably like about 10 feet and then go down the ravine. It's impossible for that vehicle to get that speed up near 30 miles per hour. We couldn't do it in a desert vehicle. So
Right.
Buckeye is coming up with a lot of stuff. And also, they want everybody to believe that his vehicles are there for 30 days. Could you imagine someone cranking up a vehicle while it's lying on the side 46 times? That's physically impossible. It's human as possible. They want you to believe in superhero stuff. My son kicked his way out sunroof. He's superhero strength. He sat in that seat and cranked it up 46 times while sitting on his side, some type of thing. So
Right.
it's crazy to me. Then we got to ignore the fact that the rancher who had the eyewitness saying it wasn't here. I was standing in this ravine. It wasn't here on the
Oh,
17th.
he literally said he was standing in there in that
It was
ravine.
right there at the ravine, and it wasn't there. But that's why
Wow.
he was shot when he came back 2 days. But they're ignoring those things because some reason, in my opinion, the Buckeye Police Department want that vehicle to be there for 30 days, and they're using the Mile IQ app, and you're probably gonna ask about that pretty soon too.
Tell me about it. The MyLockQ app.
Well, it's something when I got my son's his cell phone back from Detective Biffin, it's a lot of things wrong with that, and I really that's what I'm saying. Law enforcement have to be very careful. When I got that cell phone back, it was missing a memory card that I bought my son. I asked them about it.
Mm.
It was missing. Somebody stole it. I mean, took it out of there, whatever the case may be. Law enforcement feel like there's nothing wrong with that. I just bought a purchase for him. And the other thing is everything about the young lady was wiped out of the phone. All their conversations to whatever. Only
I
thing was
was
still
gonna
there.
ask about that.
Yes. Only thing that still was there was her phone number and her name and phone number. That's it. Everything, the text message between the two, everything was missing from her. Everybody else text messages and calls and all that was intact. Also, the Google search history as well as location was erased out of the phone. I had went through hell, excuse my expression, to get that information, some of the information back from Google, but I got it. Law enforcement don't know. I never really speak about it because I'm doing this on purpose because they're saying a lot of things in the report that is false. The other thing is I was able to know what happened with Daniel, where he was at through this Google search from his Google Maps, areas that he was prior to going missing and things like that. So I
Mm.
got some evidence of that, but that's what was missing as well. And then ultimately, I was looking through all the apps one day, and I realized that see which app because I tried to go through Instacart to try to get information from them. It's impossible without a warrant.
Mm.
See some things, but I was able to get some the MyIQ app. I called the owners of the app, found out who they were, talked to them. They sent me some data. They also told Buckeye Police Department about it. They had to ask for permission, of course, for me to give that information to law enforcement, which I did. They have the same exact data I have, and the way they're reading it. You know what I'm saying for you guys, I'm just waiting on the stuff, but the way they're reading it, they want to place. It's we finally got something that says his vehicle was there for 30 days. But it's not true. It's not true, and
Mm.
I'm explaining that to a lot of people later. But I just can't do it on the platform right now because
No,
I'm
I
putting
understand.
everything together. But yes,
Right, right.
yeah.
So, a couple things in my mind. So, you guys took out the infotainment system, and you also did you use that thing where you plug into the car? I forget what it's called, and it pulls up like the data and all that stuff too. He probably did. I don't know. There's like something you
I'm not.
plug into.
I know some people. I think it's talking about like almost like a flash drive type deal.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But I don't know. I'm not sure what Mr.
Okay.
McGrath did. But yeah, he did pull information from that
So
vehicle as well.
and so cops, they never took the vehicle.
They have the part is the rancher told me he reported that vehicle. They came out. It took 3 hours to show up, but they came out. And the first thing they told him, whatever you do, do not alert the media and don't alert the father, the family. Don't tell the
Mm.
family that the vehicle's found. So whatever they did for over 24 hours, they did it out there, and they say they were searching. But they told me over 24 hours later, knowing I was already in the desert with hundreds of people out there searching for my son, they decided to tell me over 24 hours later. So they were out there with the vehicle, but when they brought me to the police station, I thought I was going to the scene. They actually see my son's vehicle where it lied when they found it, but no, they already pulled it from the scene that same day and took it to their police compound. So where I seen it for the first time.
Okay. And I was curious too. Does that Jeep have auto stop? The feature? I don't know if you know what that is.
Yeah, I know because my car
Okay.
has it, but
Okay.
I don't. I'm not sure. I probably wouldn't think so, but
Okay.
no, I,
All right.
I don't know. I'm not for certain, but I don't know. I have seen that in the features when I was looking through that, the whole manual and stuff like that.
Okay. So I wanted to ask you about this woman. Okay. They have her her name is Caitlin, and
Right.
it says that Robinson was he did like Instacart, I think sometimes,
He did Instacart. That's correct.
and he delivered to her one time. The story supposedly says that like he goes to deliver over there. I guess she was drunk. She was drinking with a friend. She invited him in, so they hang out. That's what one of these articles says. They exchange phone numbers. Within a week, I guess she claims that he arrived at her house unannounced, began sending text messages like, I can't stop thinking about you, love you, all this stuff. She tried to rebuff him. Honestly, he's showing up at my house unannounced made me extremely uncomfortable. I don't see us hanging out anytime soon. The next day, he turned up at her house. They claim here he says, do you hate me? He said, I don't hate you. Please leave me alone. So there was this weird thing that I've seen going around on some of the articles and in the news. And I just wanted to ask you your thoughts and what you know about that.
Well, first I want to say that's the way I think my son's case was sensationalized. First
Mm,
of all, the other part is, I had to go by what my son told me. I talked to my own son. I talked to my son 2 days prior to him going missing, and we had an extensive conversation. We always have 2 hour conversations.
okay.
That's when I first ever heard of this young lady, first time ever. Her name is Caitlin. He told me. He also told me there's another female there. They wasn't drunk. So that's one thing I want to
Okay.
rebuff on that. I
Thank you.
know it's out there, and like I said, they sensationalized the case, but they wasn't drunk. They ordered alcohol. They ordered a wine, a matter of
Oh,
fact.
okay.
And then my son took care of the orders, what he's told me. Because I asked him how he met this young lady. He mentioned her, so I asked him how he met. Yeah, through Instacart. And so what I'm telling you is the way he told me. They order got messed up or something. He took it upon himself to correct their order. They were so happy about it and invite him, say, hey, take a break, come on in.
Right.
So they came in and he spent time with them. Make a long story short, him and Caitlin became intimate, and he spent the night there. He spent the night
Okay.
there, and
They
that's
didn't say
one of
that
the biggest.
anywhere.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that's the thing,
Mhm.
and from a family standpoint, I'm a father, so first. And when my son was telling me this, I can be honest, and I'm just going to show you guys this because I'm going to start playing the last thing Daniel said about this young lady. Just trying to get it together and mute some of the stuff out of the
Okay.
tape about our conversation, but I will public that soon. But the thing is, my son, first of all, he never mentioned the word love about this woman. He never told me that, and that's one thing law enforcement lied on me about. Say, "Oh, the father said he's in love." I never said that, so I told him many times to take that out of their report. But
Mm,
he did tell me he spent the night with a woman, and I was a little upset as a parent. I told him, I said, "Dan, you're too smart. He's a genius. He's a geologist. He's a
yeah.
scientist. Daniel, you're too smart to do something dumb like that." Then I was grilling him. I say, "Who is this lady? Where she work at? Who is that her house? Do she have a boyfriend? Do she have a husband?" He didn't know any of those answers. I say, you see how stupid that is? Basically,
Right.
that's how I'm coming off to my son. But ultimately, that's the way he met the young lady through the Instacart. Now, to go forward with the other, I call them allegations or sensationalism of my son's case. Anybody can use any kind of common sense on this matter. If you really read what the lady wrote, and I say she wrote because a lot of things, the text messages we have on that report do not match Daniel's phone record. I'm telling people this all the time
Mm,
too. If this time don't mess it, so it's like added stuff there somewhere. And so the thing is, she also say, "Come anytime you want to." 'Cause that's exactly what he told me. He said, "Hey," she told him he can come anytime to go grab his canopy is what he left. So that matches to what my son told me personally. Hey, and that's why I'm gonna release his voice audio eventually. He says, "Hey, look, she told me to come. I can come and grab this stuff." And that's what he did. He went to go get his stuff because he needed for his job. He has a canopy. Canopy is something they use to sit up under in that heat in that desert sun. He's out
okay.
in the snoring desert and in
Right.
desert conditions. So, so that's what they're using for. But she claiming all this other stuff. And like I said, to date, law enforcement said, hey, we got messages from Daniel that matches what she said out of his delete folder. Mind you, when I received that phone from when that vehicle was found, it was I looked at the phone manufacturer Samsung, and everybody know it's permanently deleted out the trash folder after 30 days. They did not start any processes on that for that length of time. First of all, the other
Mm,
part is, where is it? I always ask law enforcement, where is it? Let's where y'all for whatever reason they would put this text message about this young lady. Let's see Daniel sitting next to it. Let's go ahead and and put
Right.
that into the report too. And then the reason why they can't, because they already know it don't match up and there's something fishy going on about that.
And when you got the phone back, you said it was wiped. As far as the
It
messages
was.
between them and stuff like that,
That's correct.
is crazy.
Yes.
With that lady too, I was just wondering because I had heard all kinds of rumors, and I'm glad to have you on so you can kind of like dispel this stuff and clear things out. That's what I wanted to get you on for too. I had heard like I don't know if does she have a boyfriend or married or something or
I don't know,
you
and
don't know?
I've been
Okay,
trying to look, and I try to stay away, and that's one of the blocks that I have in my investigation, my own personal investigation, is trying to deal with her delicately. And then one reason is because she's a young lady around my son's age. I try to, and, be honest with you, I'm gonna tell you the crazy part about this. When I first heard about the young lady from the law enforcement standpoint, they said they spoke with her. I was a little upset when they came with that ludicrous idea to kind of make my son out to be kind of creepy and like a
right,
stalker type
right.
deal. And the first thing I have it in recording as well, because I record myself talking law. I record everything. And the thing was, it bothered me. I have two young ladies. I have twin daughters. I have a 16-year-old daughter as well. And no man, whether it's my son or not, is going to make a woman feel uncomfortable. So it made me feel a certain way. And I say, well, if my son doing something, no, that got to be straightened out. Basically, I'm not going to side with wrong. That's the case. But when I start after that point, I start evaluating everything, getting the information in. That's why I call it no good.
I appreciate you clearing that up. Thank you.
Right.
I have questions too that people wanted to ask. I have several here. Now, it said someone read the room was ransacked in his Google search history. What was that about? Is that after the cops were there? Like you went at some point and checked?
Well, the law enforcement. Well, the way one thing is, Buckeye have never even thought about Dane's apartment. My family, I finally got access to Dane's apartment. My investigator, he went in first, do his assessment. And what we got back from my investigator once he went in and did his thing, he told me, he showed me pictures, and a lot of pictures not in public. I have a lot, many. He showed me pictures of my son's apartment, and it was clean. And so some people see some Discovery ID stuff. It was totally off, wasn't correct when it comes in terms of the way his apartment appeared. His apartment was clean. There was no dish in the sink. There was no trash running over and all that kind of stuff. But I can say his room was a mess. I mean, things were thrown all over the place. That's the way I saw it from a parent's eye. Things thrown all over the place. I told Miss McGrath, I said, man, I'm so embarrassed. I said, man, my son's known to talk to be cleaner than that. And he said, no. He said, I'm going to show you something, Mr. Robinson. He started pointing through these pictures with me and pointing these things out. And he found some information and evidence that somebody was looking for something. We didn't know it was Daniel or someone else, but somebody was in there looking for. They even they have other pictures. He pulling things out. They pulling off the shelves and turn things over, looking for something, right? Because the evidence was also with the vacuum cleaner. He was had vacuum cleaners plugged up. Nobody's going to be vacuuming, throwing stuff on top of the vacuum cleaner itself. So that happened after the vacuum cleaner was being used. But the thing was, we couldn't put the time length on that when this thing happened. So, hindsight, after we had to dismantle Dane's apartment because of financial reasons, everything stored up and everything, I took it upon myself. My team and I have a whole team of volunteer, 5 of us, and we talked to we had a meeting with the Tempe mayor, Mayor Woods at the time, and also the chief of police of Tempe Police, both chief of the Tempe Police Department, Glover, and also Anderson. And so we had this nice meeting where I was able to convince, with the mayor and present, to convince the Tempe Police Department to do the forensics. Because people probably remember I was asking the public to help me get the money up to do forensics at the time. Glad I didn't do that. I messed with that phone, but glad I didn't get that done because that also damages more of that chain of custody thing. So I was able to talk to the Tempe Police Department, like I said, and they agreed. Mr. Robinson, we're gonna do this for you as a favor. But we had to share whatever we found with the Buckeye Police Department. I was really upset about that because I really don't want to share enough with them because I don't trust the Buckeye Police
Right.
Department. But nevertheless, it's law enforcement. So they was able to do that, and then we got the report back, and that's when I got my answers. We did give a copy to the Buckeye Police Department. That's when I got my answers. Was on my son's personal computer after he went missing. After I don't know if after the vehicle showed up or when on that time, but I do know I take that back because I just can't put it in the
You
public.
can't. Okay, you can
But
put.
we
Okay,
have
right.
a date where somebody was actually into his personal computer doing searches, going through files, all kind of stuff. So that matches up what the physical stuff that's going on in that apartment in Daniel's room. Somebody looked for something, and then they went to his office room and was on his computer. So we know those two things happen in that apartment. Those things need to be looked into. But Buckeye had been negligent and haven't done a job up front because we would have had maybe DNA evidence. Again,
Something.
they
Yeah.
failed to
Yeah.
do that to see if anybody else was in his apartment, et cetera, if else in blood had been wiped up, et cetera. All that kind of stuff was very important at the time.
Wow, that's a really good point. Have you any of the search parties? Well, I guess it's you apparently, but you or the people you were with. Have you ever been dissuaded or like any threats or anything like that from anybody out there?
Yeah, me personally, I had death threats. I had to go to the FBI about. Can you imagine being a father come looking for your son and you got people threatening to kill you? There's gonna be bloodshed and all kind of stuff. And I kept going. But yes, I was threatened. Also, through email and text. And I'm sure whoever threatened me was coming out to the searches. Thank you for their help. But
Wow,
the thing is, it caused me to stay armed at all times. So people who came out the desert, they probably could tell you I kept a side piece, both one on my leg, one on my around my area, torso area, and I also carried an AR. Sometimes I
really?
carry three, yes. And so here I am at a search with volunteers, carrying like I'm going to war or something. And that came from the death threats. I didn't know who was who at time, of course. I'm a veteran, military veteran, so we all been trained to watch hands and trained to watch the crowd and things like that. So that type deal. So of course I've been prepared, but yes, I have death threats, and I've been hearing some other people may have some of the issues too with their family, but yes, I definitely had death threats out there.
That's crazy.
Yes.
And I wonder why. I wonder if it's locals or just or that's insane to me.
Well, they was using burner phones. Is
Oh
one
yeah,
thing my
yeah.
investigator he found. Yeah, because FBI didn't do anything. I reported with them. They took a report, and they told me I had to go through the Buckeye Police Department and for them to come in to find out who's giving me those threats. I did go to the Buckeye Police Department. They pretend like they didn't know Chief Hall, but I went to them and I told them all they had to do is to get the FBI involved, and they didn't. So to date. But yeah, I did go to law enforcement as well but my investigator, like I said, told me when he went to go check those phones, he can do reverse stuff. They're all
Mm-hmm.
burner phones, so they make sure
Mm.
whoever they are, they make sure they try to, be not be found or whatever.
Any? Can you tell me anything about like canines and stuff? Have they any kind of hit or anything around the vehicle or stuff like that?
Yeah, our canines, one that I had for my searches on the law enforcement, they said they had canines out there on when the vehicle showed up, didn't hit on anything. But our canines did. I had two sets of canines came in different time. They all hit on the same tree. That's about I say about 5,000 feet away from that crash site, that area near where the skull that we found that somehow law enforcement claimed they searched there and didn't find. And our animals, I say our animals doing my search was pinging on a certain tree, and we still trying to fit out information with that. So yes, we have had hits on areas.
The clothes that were near the car, was that the clothes he was wearing that day? I guess.
Family, I don't recognize them clothing, and that's another reason why I'm still
Really?
holding that stuff. I'm still housing these things, man. It's costing me money. That's why I really thank everybody who's donating. But the thing is, those clothes have never been processed to say if it's even Daniel's clothing. Me and my family, my daughter, she see my son almost every day. She lived there in Phoenix at times, and she said she didn't recognize those clothing. I never saw Daniel wearing those clothing, but they claim it's Daniel's clothing. Let's test those clothing and see if his DNA is in the clothing, if it's his clothing. And also another thing, even if it is his clothing, let's see if he was actually in that vehicle at the time of that accident, or like that crime scene is the word I want to use, because anybody know when the airbag hits you, first of all, going to take DNA off of you. The other party is going to leave residue from the powder, whatever the airbag has, going to get embedded into your clothing. If they don't have it, those two things in there, we know. You see what I'm saying? We get answers that way, but law enforcement reluctant and refusing to do so.
Okay. Okay. The crash report thing, it had said the vehicle, I guess the first crash, was it 4 hours after?
Right. It was near 4 hours. It was near 1
Near 4
o'clock
hours.
that day. Right.
But then his phone was turned off by like at what, 10 a.m. or something, they said? It was.
Well, from
I don't know
a
if that's
family
accurate.
standpoint, I'm not sure when the phone actually was turned off or anything like
Okay.
that. 'Cause I can't tell you. Of course, we are calling family. We was calling back to back when Daniel missing on the 23rd. When we realized he was actually missing, we was just calling. You can see that all on the phone record. And then, when we was calling, the phone was ringing. Like you tell the phone is on, it's ring and ring and ring until it finally go to voicemail. But then I'll say a little after, and that's why I said I don't believe that, because a little around probably midnight in Arizona time, that's when the phone finally um, just go straight to voicemail. So I'm
Oh.
assuming that it was dead at that moment. So it's 10 o'clock in the morning. I can't fit that into that time frame.
Okay. And it says here, so it says his family and friends and coworkers said the days prior to his disappearance, he was not like himself, but there's no indication that he would harm himself or anything like that. What did you guys mean, like not like himself? If that's
Well,
accurate.
you know what? It's two ways of looking at all of this. Because, like I said, when I had my conversation with my son for that 2 days prior, he didn't have any indication of anything wrong, no depression, nothing. He had plans to go hiking that weekend with his sister. We had plans for me to come out there in July to see his vehicle. And he was bragging because we was on the phone that night, 2 days before he went missing. He had just completed that same computer with the information that I was discussing. He built that computer himself. I'm a computer engineer major, so of course he calls me and asks me things. And he was proud that night. He was telling me, Dad, how he's proud he actually got it done. He sent me a picture of it, and very happy. So I'm saying is, when we look at it, we say, well, the family said he was acting, when he wasn't himself. We literally, this is the funny part. To date, I don't know anybody, not even Ken, the young lady, or whoever they think is involved in my son's case, have ever been in an interrogation room in Buckeye Police Department. Me and my daughter was. For some reason, the Buckeye Police
Really?
Department brought us in. They brought us through the back door. They put us. I realized it was. I never been to jail, like in some interrogation room. Been in jail and interrogation room and things like that. So I've seen those things on television. But just sitting there in this room, and this kind of room they had, and they had a little table. And now, and I started thinking, I said, this is an interrogation room, but they had us sit there for like 15 or so minutes and try to say, you can think of anything. I mean, when I say anything that seemed kind of odd, that Daniel's behavior. So we sat there for that length of time, and my daughter came up with that he was staring off at the wall when he
I was
came in
going
the
to
house.
ask you that.
But that happened, mind you, that happened 2 weeks before he went missing. So it don't have nothing to do with him being missing. So I don't know why they didn't put that in the report. So the thing is, but they sat there, and so we say, yeah, he could have. We trying to come up something to find out some as a family, trying to understand what's going on right now. Of course, we may kind of give a thought, like, yeah, he wasn't really himself
Right.
or something. I don't know, But the thing
Okay.
is, no, Daniel was fine. He was fine.
Okay, that's good to know to clear
Yeah.
that up too. Because I have
Yes,
off
sir.
days all the time. My friends all the time tell me, "Hey, Mel, you're whatever."
Yeah, I
So if
stare off.
something happened to me, yeah, if something happened to me, people would probably say the same if I was on an off day or something like that.
Right. Like,
So
I
that's
I
good.
tell the workers, I like, look, man, he probably just didn't like y'all or something. I don't know. He's mad. He didn't feel like coming to work or something, or
Right.
whatever the case may be. I don't know. Like I said, could have had a bad day. Could have ate the wrong food last night. I don't know.
So one of the things, how did the police even come up with like this cult theory thing? Like, I mean, is there actual some cults out there or something, or what made them?
The monastery, or are you talking about?
Yeah, the monastery. Sorry, the monastery.
Yeah, the monastery. Well, I don't know where he came up, because I know Detective Biffin, when they was showing me the vehicle, like I said, he had me follow him from one police station to the compound where they keep the vehicles, I guess. And when I got there, I was coming around the building. He let me in this gate. They had this gate to get to the back. And as we were walking around the corner, he stopped me. He just stopped. Like, Ms. Robert, he said, hey, I've seen things. I've seen cases like this before. He said, he just started telling me a story about some other family who thought their mother was missing. Turned out she became a nun. That's how he put it. He said, "Well, I'm not necessarily saying that, but he said maybe your son just wanted to be away from y'all and join the monastery, become a monk. And because he said that, I've been a little suspicious about Buckeye Police Department. I actually went to go look for a monastery near that area, and I found one. I found one that's not in walking distance, not in just simple driving. You can't do it across the desert, but you can go back down Sun Valley Parkway, get back on I-10, go out west. You got to go 2 Essex west, and then you got to go some miles way back the other direction, going north, and you get to this monastery, right? I went
Mm,
there, and it was closed because of COVID. And so they was
mm,
closed for a long time, so definitely he wasn't part of that. But also people kind of to relate my son's case, like I said, the sensationalizing parts of his case, to a thing that the young lady gave him. He told me about that night too. She gave him some kind of podcast thing to listen to, some Tully something. Gave him that podcast to listen to. He told me about this, and the reason why he told me she gave that to him because she said you need to listen to this because you got an ego. No, you got your ego's too big or too arrogant. No, arrogant. That's the word.
mm,
You're arrogant or whatever the case may be. And he said, I told him, I said, son, you're not arrogant. He's just confident. For a man
right,
who's born without a right hand, Daniel has always been confident in himself. And you're just a confident guy. And she might be misreading that as you being arrogant, that type deal.
right.
So that's what that is.
Okay. Oh, thanks for clearing that up. And
Yeah.
I was just kind of curious, what is the area out there like? I mean, like people wise, and even where the vehicle was found, like, is there any kind of homes nearby? I know there's that rancher. It's a huge property that rancher has. What is like the community out there like? Is there any kind of sketchy stuff? I mean, I've heard of things too, like if you walk into the wrong place or go to the wrong area, it could be problems.
Yeah, we learned that too. It's nothing to while we're out there, we're hearing people using this. I sound like they're shooting 50 cals. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
Yeah,
But
it's
we're hearing them in the
huge.
distance.
Yeah.
And I was told that it's not too far from there, with my son went missing, but it's way up north, a little north. I said you have to go a good, probably like 15 miles, if that, to get to this area, which is outside of our search area, right? So, where Daniel went missing, they said, hey, even the police don't go mess with those people in there. So, that's kind of one of those
Wow.
kind of redneck type community thing
Yeah.
they got going there. That's one thing. Now, Buckeye itself, I did have my own personal opinions about it at the beginning. Of course, the police department, I went up there, the Buckeye Police Department, my first initial to meet Detective Biffin. He called me up there out of Phoenix. Went there and went to the desk, and the man just yelled at me, "Yeah, what you want?" Pretty much. I mean, it was really ugly. And they told
Uh,
me that he wasn't there. I thought he was going to arrest me or something, but they told me he wasn't there. I walked out to call him, and he was in the building. He came out. That was one indication. The other part was I found there was a lead that I had gotten from a young man. He said he's been ignored by the Buckeye Police Department, so he reached out to me through social media, my family, and he had a picture of a vehicle that looked just like Dane's vehicle on the side of the road in Buckeye. And he sent the picture. It's really blurry and somewhat, but it looked just like his vehicle. I showed it to my daughter. She know his vehicle look at like at the time. I never did see it personally. And so I got excited about it and called the Buckeye Police Department about it. He said, "Oh, it's not your son's vehicle." Make a long story. I was that vehicle to me to date. I really believe it goes along with the storyline. What happened that day to my son. But I'm gonna skip over that for now. But what I'm saying is that area
you know
with
when that
that
picture was
vehicle,
taken, or you
I
can't
still
say?
don't know because what it
Okay.
is,
Okay.
I can go through the little details of somewhat. I called the Buckeye Police Department, let them know. Detective Bill, before I can finish my sentence, that's not your son's vehicle. I was, well, how you know? Have you looked at it? He haven't even go out there and look. So he just said that. So I asked him, can he please have a cruiser to go out there and check it out? But I told him I'll be on the way up there to go see him for myself. I'm bringing my daughter, which she lived on. I was at a hotel at the time,
Mm.
where she didn't live, but around the corner. I'm gonna get her, and we're gonna head up and see if that's Daniel's vehicle. Got out the phone. By the time I got to my daughter's apartment, the young man called me back and said, "Mr. Robinson, I went back up to check on the vehicle. It's gone." I'm like, "That's strange." Because Buckeye said they're gonna send a cruiser out. He said, "Yeah, I seen the Buckeye. They seen a cruiser, but the vehicle's gone." I'm like, so I called Detective Biffin back. I'm like, "Did y'all tow it back?" He didn't answer the question, and to date, I don't know where that vehicle went. I went to try to find out where that vehicle went. So I took my daughter up there anyway. We got there on that scene. I so happened to met a law enforcement officer, a black female, and her friend, and they so happened to call me while me and my daughter was on the ground up there trying to get trying to look on the ground, see if we see any debris or anything or we can get. So she came up there to meet us, and we was on the ground doing police work, believe it or not, because she have her skills being a police officer.
Mm.
And this truck full of white guys, pickup truck, in broad daylight, call us the N word, and just my daughter just got. I'm glad she did. My daughter happened to just sit back in the car. She got hot, sat in the car. As soon as she shut the door, they came around the corner, yelling at us, calling us the N word in broad daylight, man. I mean, like no shame in their game. And the officer she told me said, yeah, this is a sundown town of Buckeye, the area. It's a sundown town. Get your family out here before it get night because it's getting in the evening time. Let's get out of here because you don't want to be caught out here late. That's when they do stuff to you. So that's the
That
exception I got to the Buckeye
is
Police Department, and we still have that in
crazy.
2023. So that's crazy, right?
Well, that kind of puts me a little bit into what you guys are going through. I can imagine like the death threats. You got you're
Oh yeah,
kind of going into this environment where you're just trying to look for your son, and you're encountering all this
yeah. God protects us, man.
craziness.
I know I have God on my side, man. That's protecting, and I have my love for my son. So you know what? Sometimes parents have to put your life on the line if you're out to do make sure that your child is okay. Yeah, I know he's a grown man. I know people say, "Man, you keep talking about your child." No, he's a grown man, but he's my son. He's my young
I
man.
totally understand. Yeah.
He's supposed to be bearing me. I'm never supposed to be the opposite direction. So the thing is, our job as a parent to make sure our adults, even adults, are doing okay.
Wow. And so, what's next as far as the search? Like, do you have other plans coming up soon? Or?
Yeah, the second GoFundMe, like you was mentioning, they had two. That was for a couple of things. I wanted to do a protest, two protests. I'll call it a protest weekend, holiday. Is because I found when I did my last family press conference at the Buckeye Police Department, they close on Saturday. They like Mayberry, they close on Saturday. I think crime in Buckeye must stop on
No.
weekends, but they close. And so what I want to do is make sure that people have opportunity to help me in this protest. That's why I got the mail-in protest to start it off, but to be able to come and be a part of the protest. So I have a 3-day type deal. It's going to be Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And Saturday and the Friday and Saturday would be for Maricopa County as well because I'm doing two things at one time. So that would have been a protest. And then that weekend, I wanted the search for Daniel to clear this last layer. Mind you, like I said, it's been over 23,000 acres of land that we covered. It's just that I have a small pocket area that need to be searched so it can clear my mind. I can kind of rule out that
Right.
Daniel's out there. So the thing is, trying to put all that together. That's the reason why I had came up with the second because I needed the funding, try to encourage people to donate. But then now I have a roadblock, and the roadblock is they building a community out there. The same with the well site. Like I told you, my son, his job is to determine if that community can be built. Community can be built. Didn't say it's enough groundwater. As we know, hindsight now, because of the governor, there's not enough water to support it.
There's a lot of conversation going on Reddit with regards to this story. One person says, I live right down the road and they're developing large areas for housing out there at the moment, so it won't stay rural for long. Another person says, I don't know the specific project he was working on, and I don't want to suggest any relationship to his disappearance. In response to the reason I was confronted in the past, people in hard hats and vests mean form of change is coming to the desert, and not everyone sees that as a good thing.
But and that report came out on the same month that my son went missing, but he hid it, but it been released. But the thing is, um, uh, that whole point I'm saying that area, what I'm saying that they building that stuff, they tearing it up. That's the area I need to get to these areas where I need to search, and I couldn't get permission. I had permission for the summer. I couldn't get the funding fast enough. Now they going further into their development, and I can't get access at all. So I had to scratch the search for now and then try to regroup and do it over again, try again to get something going.
And there's people out there, that community, there's people out there that want it or they don't want it. Because I remember reading something about that, and I know he has like a decision over that. There were some people upset about that, or like they
Yeah,
don't want it or they do want it.
they don't want it because
They
what's
don't want it,
happening
yeah.
is, especially Phoenix having the issue because if people are paying attention, they share water off the Colorado River. You got these other states trying to slow the river down because they fight over water. These we run out of water. To make a long story, this desert state, of course, we have a lot of droughts. The Colorado River level is low. The underground streams that the Hansappa River basin is low where my son was doing his assessment. And it's taking water from Phoenix. Phoenix is a large city, taking a lot of water from other areas, Tempe and the rest of them. They need that water. And so
Mm,
when if they build that community, what would Phoenix do? That type deal. So yeah, a
right.
lot of people do not want that because it cannot support everything.
Right. Well, thank you so much, man. I appreciate you coming on. Really sorry about Daniel. I mean, I like I've told my people that watch me, like I see you like everywhere. Like you're really I've it's kind of like I'm just from Crime Con to the interviews. Every day you're like posting on Twitter, posting on your YouTube and the website, everything. So I really feel sorry. I feel sorry about what happened, and also that like it's like the stories doesn't get that much attention. It had its moment, and it just kind of like,
It does.
eh,
That's why
it's
you have
like
to
it's
keep
just
fighting. You have to keep fighting. I tell parents, families all the time, you know, when that what I have on that posted on my Twitter account, for instance, when the lights and cameras leave, I'm gonna still be here. So the thing is, I talked to a lot of families. I know you need to go, but I talked to a lot of families, and families tell me all the time, and we all agree, it's tough trying to keep your loved one's story out there. You have to keep trying, and because it's a lifeline. When you got what you guys are doing, I really appreciate what you're doing, sir, because
yeah,
it's a lifeline for families like mine. Because once everybody, when the podcasters go away too,
right,
that case
right.
can easily become a cold case, and that's what we try to do is make sure it stay out there, and it puts the pressure on law enforcement to keep looking for something, and that's what we're doing.
Oh, and one other quick question too. There's a lot of like wells out there and stuff, right? I
A
guess.
lot of wells,
So
mines,
you've
and a lot, yes,
mines.
mines and wells.
So have you? I mean, how many were you able to? Did you do a lot, or is it kind of hard? Is it dangerous too to try to go in some of those mines and stuff?
I went into one vertical, one horizontal mine.
Oh,
I tried to go into two vertical mines. They go straight down into the earth, and I don't have the equipment to do it, so that's something I had to do through BLM. Once they found out my son's vehicle was actually on, it's a fight over that, on BLM land. That's federal land. Of course, that
oh,
means the FBI is supposed to come in, but they trying to make sure to say no. It's probably on a couple steps, paces away from federal land, if it's not actually on federal land. But my assessment it is. But that's another. But anyway, those mines, or vertical mines, like I said, you don't know how far they go down into the earth, and you don't want to end up falling down in there. So we had to have special equipment, special people that actually experts know what they're doing, and I had a hard time getting them to do those mines. However, I was able to do something law enforcement didn't want to do as well. Search the two well sites that I found, the one that they claimed where my son went missing, and one that's north of that. I was able to get a company to come in, myself again, not law enforcement, to go down in those wells to check. And when I did the one that was north, there was something that was in there that looked like it was the top of a human skull. I sent that to the ASU University forensics department. They looked at it. They had concerns about it. I took to the Missouri as well. They had questions about it as well from their expertise. I've been trying to put it in the media. I tried to get the news media to look into it, try to get FBI into it. Nobody would pay attention until earlier part of this year. Finally, the Buckeye Police Department went with that. I guess so much pressure on them about it. They finally went out there and went down in themselves to pull that stuff out of it, and they claimed that it wasn't a human skull. Thank God, but I still have questions about that.
right.
And they didn't find anything. So yes, those two was actually, well, the other one that Daniel actually went missing, Buck, I haven't checked that. But the one with the skull that appeared to be skull, they went in after I did and checked that one.
Yeah, it's gonna be kind of frustrating. So, like, if you find a place, it's just all this, whether it's horizontal, vertical, can you even get inside? You could literally die in the process. I mean,
Yeah,
I don't
you
know, you
can.
slip and
Yeah.
fall, and then if you find something and something kind of sticks out, then it's this whole process of what you just talked about to even have somebody to go there and kind of look at it, examine it. I mean, you've really done a lot. I mean, it's wow.
I got stiffed a lot too.
Yeah.
I got stiffed a lot. I had one guy I had hired to bring his helicopter. He's a charter, and to do a search of an area, because we need the footages and stuff. And
Mhm.
got this guy the money, and he never showed up. We stand out there, clear the whole desert area for his landing helicopter. I take
Wow.
my investigator up, and you know, so we run into people like that too. So I ran into a lot of things where, in one occasion, I lost $21,000. You know, you get people who, I tell families all the time, be very careful when the word, I don't take nothing that say pro bono anymore, because pro bono to me is a bad word. People take your pain and try to capitalize on it in different ways. And you have to be very careful. People sometimes they'll come in the angel of light, but they're something else. So you have to be really
Right.
careful who you're allowing your circles under your pain. Because when you're in pain, you're not always sharp on every area, and some of those things can actually slip in and take you. So that's what I learned out of this lesson. So I will be putting something together for families to be able to. It's almost like a cheat sheet book, something they can
Oh,
always
that'd be
tell,
good.
and they can
Yeah.
go out there and say, "Hey, look, you know what to look for, what they can do first when they go look for their loved ones." From my experience, what I had to experience.
Okay. And how's your family holding up?
Well, my family's doing well. They're doing well as much as we can. I really, I say some smiling because there's some blessings that happen in the family, despite of the pain. There's some, I'm really, I was about to release it for you, but I'm gonna wait because I want to release it on my page. But I have some
Yeah, yeah.
good news for my family.
Good.
But when it comes to Daniel, there's a lot of pain still there. You know, for me personally, I can speak for myself, still hopeful. You know what I'm saying? I have faith. Faith, man, walk
You
by
have
faith,
to.
not by sight. It's an action words. That's why I'm actually doing what I'm doing. But I have my faith that God's gonna bring my son back. He's gonna lead
Can
me
you
to
say
the
that
right
again?
place.
Fate by how do you say that? Not
Uh,
by sight.
yes, I work by walk by faith and not by sight.
I
You know
like
what
that.
I'm saying?
Okay.
And like I said, just go ahead and because faith is an action word. We know that. And if you don't put actions to your faith,
I
then
agree.
it's useless. So the
I
thing
agree.
is, that's why I'm doing what I'm doing.
I like that. Yeah, it's true. I
Yes,
believe
sir.
the same thing too. Like you gotta actually take action.
You have to.
And
You have to.
yeah. Well, David, thank you so much. I have your. Please help find Daniel website. I have your YouTube page. I'm gonna put everything up for everybody. Put all the links to GoFundMe stuff, and let's be in touch. And maybe if you're interested, we could do a Q&A too sometime
Yes, I
coming up, so
appreciate that.
people can ask questions as well. And yeah, just thank you again.
Yes,
Appreciate it.
sir. And thank you for your time too, brother.
Thanks.
Yes, sir.
Take care.
All right.